I was folding laundry, the hum of the dryer a soft, monotonous drone that usually lulled me into a peaceful state, when a tiny ding cut through the quiet. It wasn't the frivolous chirp of a social media notification or a reminder about a forgotten errand. This sound came from a little-used app on my phone, tied to Lily's emergency tracker. Lily, my 17-year-old daughter, was a planner, the kind of girl who'd charge her phone at 70%, just in case. A dying GPS signal from her, especially when she was supposed to be enjoying a family bonding trip in the Arizona desert with my parents and my sister. Celeste. That wasn't just unusual. It was a blaring, crimson red flag. My thumb hovered over the call button. I tried once, then again and again, but each attempt went straight to voicemail, and a cold sweat began to prickle the palms of my hands. My mind raced, trying to dismiss the gnawing fear. Maybe there was no service out there. Maybe the tracker had simply fallen off her wrist. Lily had hesitated about this trip from the start. She wasn't exactly close to my side of the family. My parents had always gravitated towards Celeste, my younger sister, who was loud and effervescent, the chosen one in their eyes. I, on the other hand, was always expected to be calm, helpful, and quiet. Celeste had even sent Lily a text, "Let's start fresh," a line that now tasted like ash in my mouth. My mother had echoed it. "Let us get to know her better. Eleanor, you could use a break." I had almost said no, almost, but then Lily had looked at me with those discerning eyes of hers, usually so guarded, and whispered, "What if they actually mean it this time?" And like a fool, I'd said yes, now. I couldn't reach her, and her tracker was flatlining. I opened the GPS map anyway, desperately hoping my growing dread was just overprotective mother paranoia. But the stark reality that appeared on the screen made everything inside me go cold. The small, blinking dot, Lily's last known location, was not near a road, not near a town, not near anything remotely habitable. It was on a hiking trail, deep within a vast expanse of red sand and jagged rock, miles off the highway. The heat index for that region had already soared to 115 degrees by noon. My stomach churned. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, almost as if she'd been waiting for my call, dreading it, yet ready to deliver her casual cruelty. "Oh, she wandered off a little," she said, her tone light, dismissive. "She got upset over something, said she needed space." Celeste's voice chimed in from the speaker, laced with a familiar disdain. "She's being dramatic, Eleanor. You know how she is." I didn't utter a single word in response. Not one. I just hung up. If I'd kept listening, even for another second, I would have screamed something I couldn't take back. I didn't have a single precious second to waste on a futile fight. My mind was already racing, calculating, preparing. I snatched my laptop, booked the earliest flight I could find to Flagstaff, and then scrolled through my old contacts, pulling up a number I hadn't dialed in years. His name was Marcus. We hadn't spoken in what felt like a lifetime. But once upon a time, we'd spent a long summer hiking the canyons together. He was a wilderness survival instructor, and I was the over-prepared mom on the edge of burnout, seeking an escape in the vastness of nature. He picked up after 2 rings. "I need you," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in my hands. He didn't ask why. He just asked where. At the airport. The chaos of security lines and bustling crowds blurred around me. My hands still trembled, a physical manifestation of the terror clawing at my throat. But my mind was remarkably clear. There was a strange kind of cold, dark focus in the panic, a clarity I hadn't felt since giving birth to Lily, or maybe since my divorce. It was the kind of singular focus where you don't have the luxury of rage or tears. You just move. You act. You survive. I kept seeing her in my head. Lily, with her ridiculously wide-brimmed sun hat, her camera bag slung over her shoulder, her bottle of SPF 70 tucked securely inside. I'd helped her pack just 2 days ago. I'd made her promise, lectured her about staying hydrated. She'd rolled her eyes. A typical teenage response. But a small smile had played on her lips. I'd hugged her twice, told her I loved her 3 times. like a fool who truly believed a few words could shield her from the world's harshness. By the time my plane landed, Marcus was already waiting near the rental jeeps, a man prepared for anything. He had extra water bottles, an old, worn hiking map spread open, and a comprehensive medical kit. He looked at me, his gaze serious, and simply said, "Let's go find your kid." We reached the trailhead an hour before sunset. The silence of the desert was vast, consuming, broken only by the crunch of our boots on the gravel. No other cars were parked, no other hikers in sight. There was a ranger station about a mile away, but it looked abandoned, long disused. I showed Marcus the tracker on my phone, the blinking dot a horrifying beacon in the wilderness. He frowned, his brow furrowing with concern. "She's way off the main path," he observed, his voice low. "If she's not moving, that's not great." I nodded, unable to speak. If I opened my mouth, I feared I would either vomit from sheer terror or unleash a primal scream that would echo across the barren landscape. We began our hike. The air felt like a physical presence, hot and dry, as if it were trying to peel my skin off layer by layer. My sturdy hiking boots filled with fine desert sand with every step, and my heart hammered a frantic rhythm in my ears. We pushed on, passing a dried-out riverbed, then a torn granola bar wrapper. Small, mundane signs of human presence that offered a sliver of hope, quickly extinguished by the overwhelming desolation. And then we saw it a scarf. Lily's scarf, tied to a rock like a marker. Marcus picked it up, his expression grim. "She's trying to be found," he stated, his voice quiet. My legs nearly gave out beneath me, but I forced myself forward. Every second that passed, I thought, if I had waited an hour longer, would she still be alive yet? Not once, not for a single fleeting second, did I let myself cry. Tears don't fix things. Movement does. We found a water bottle next, lying sideways in the dust, half buried. Marcus picked it up. "Still warm," he said, his eyes scanning the horizon. "She's close." We scrambled up a rocky ledge, the setting sun painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples behind us. That's when I saw it. A flash of movement under a jagged outcrop. Something curled tightly against the unforgiving rock. I didn't wait for Marcus to say a word. I just ran. And there she was, Lily. Her eyes were half open, her lips cracked and dry, her skin flushed an alarming shade of crimson. She was still wearing that ridiculous sun hat, somehow clinging to her head, and she was alive. Barely. I dropped to my knees, pulling her limp, feverish body into my arms. Her skin was burning hot, like a stove. She whispered something, a barely audible rasp that I struggled to make out. "What, baby?" I asked, my voice thick with unshed tears, brushing the dust from her cheeks. "They took my bag," she rasped, her voice dry and broken. "On purpose." I didn't respond, not yet, because what she said next made something inside me snap in half. And that part of the story, the true, sickening part, hadn't been told yet, not until now. "Let me tell you something about my family. About the Sterlings. We don't do open hostility. That would be too honest, too vulgar. We practice polite cruelty. We perfected the art of, we love everyone equally, with a subtle, cutting side of, but let's talk about Celeste for a moment. Celeste, my younger sister, was always the chosen one, the loud, sparkling gem in my parents' eyes. She could fail a class and receive a congratulatory cake for trying her best. I once brought home a straight-A report card, and my mother simply asked if I was distracted by boys. It wasn't violent, not overtly dramatic, certainly not obvious. That's what made it so much worse. Growing up, Celeste was allowed to be messy, moody, and creatively chaotic. I was expected to be calm, helpful, and above all, quiet. When Celeste threw a tantrum at Thanksgiving dinner, she was given a warm bath and a blanket fort. When I cried, I was told I was ruining the mood, and I believed them. For years, I truly believed there was something fundamentally wrong with me, something too much or not enough. But then I had Lily, and for the first time in my life, someone looked at me like I was the sun, Like I was everything. Lily wasn't loud or soft. She was sharp, intensely observant, and, if I'm honest, a little intimidating. She asked hard questions at 5 years old and didn't smile just because someone told her to. She reminded me of myself, but better, stronger. My parents never knew what to do with her. They tried, in their own superficial way, buying her glitter pens and pink sweaters. Lily, however, preferred black hoodies and memorized state laws, just in case. So they smiled. They included her, superficially, until my grandmother, Alara, stepped in. My grandmother Alara is a formidable woman, the kind who sharpens her own garden shears with meticulous care and still mails handwritten thank you notes. She's 92, and if she told a tornado to wait until she finished breakfast, it probably would. She took to Lily instantly. Finally, she'd said the second time they met, her voice a dry, knowing rasp. Someone in this family who listens. They became incredibly close, closer than anyone else in the family to either of them. I saw it happening, this deep, unspoken connection, but I didn't interfere. It was the only time I ever saw Lily truly let her guard down, truly relax into being herself. And Alara, she saw something in Lily that the rest of them, my parents and Celeste, never bothered to look for, never bothered to understand. Last month, Alara invited me over. Tea, shortbread cookies, and her will, lying casually on the mahogany table between us. Half of everything I leave behind will go to Lily, she stated, her gaze unwavering. The rest will go to Celeste's children. Don't argue. I didn't even speak for a full minute. I hadn't asked for this. Neither had Lily. But I knew exactly what this would mean. And I knew, with a chilling certainty, that it was going to burn something to the ground. Celeste found out 4 days later. Don't ask me how. My family leaks faster than a screen door in a hurricane. She called me, and the moment I picked up, she was already screaming, "Are you kidding me? Eleanor!" she shrieked. "That's 3 kids against 1. Are you seriously okay with this?" "I didn't write the will," I said flatly. "Alara did." "Well, you certainly didn't try to stop her." She hung up on me. My mother called an hour later, her voice dripping with manipulative concern. "You know Celeste's struggling right now. Eleanor, her job, the kids, her marriage." "I'm not in charge of her marriage," I stated, my voice devoid of emotion. "She's just scared that your daughter is manipulating Alara." That word, manipulating Lily, who has spent her whole life scanning people's expressions for what they're not saying. Lily, who says things like, "It's fine," when she's clearly not fine, just to avoid making people uncomfortable. Manipulative. That's rich. After that, the atmosphere grew even colder, quietly. Of course, Lily was excluded from group chats. One of Celeste's kids had a birthday party. Everyone posted photos, except Lily wasn't in any of them. Even though she was there, a silent, almost invisible presence. She came home that day and asked, her voice small, "Do you think they hate me?" "No," I lied. Then came the sudden invitation. "Let's take the kids out to Arizona." My mother chirped on the phone. A little bonding trip, no pressure, just Celeste, the cousins, us, and Lily. I asked, "Why now?" My mom said, "She's family. We should all try." Celeste sent Lily a follow-up text. "Let's start fresh for real this time." Lily stared at her phone for a long time, her face unreadable. Then she said, her voice barely a whisper, "What if this time is different?" I should have said no, but a part of me, a foolish, hopeful part, wanted to believe it too. I helped her pack, made her triple check her charger, her SPF, her backup snacks, gave her the usual hydration lecture. She rolled her eyes. "You act like I'm hiking through Death Valley alone." She joked, I didn't laugh, before she left. I hugged her twice, told her I loved her 3 times. She rolled her eyes again, but a small, genuine smile touched her lips. Then she was gone. According to Lily, it happened on the 3rd day. They were hiking a dry ridge somewhere west of Flagstaff. Celeste had said. Go take some pictures by the rocks up ahead. We'll wait here. So Lily did. She walked ahead, camera in hand, excited, trusting. She said she turned around 10 minutes later, and the car was gone. At first, she thought maybe they'd driven around to meet her on the other side. Then she realized her main backpack was missing. Not her small day pack, the one with just her phone, tracker, and a small water bottle, her main backpack, the one with her backup charger, her emergency GPS beacon, her second water bottle, her map, her trail mix, her ID, gone. She waited 2 agonizing hours before she finally stopped waiting. The desperate hope draining out of her with every passing minute under the scorching sun. Then she wrote a note, a small, defiant act of survival, and slipped it into her sock, just in case. It read, "My name is Lily. My family left me. My mom's number is in my camera bag. Please call her." That's what she told me at the hospital. But in that moment, on the rock, her body limp in my arms, she said something else first. They took my bag on purpose. And I knew it wasn't just neglect. It wasn't just them being careless or cruel. It was a plan, a quiet, cruel, premeditated plan. Because if something happened to Lily, they thought Alara's will would change. They thought it would go to Celeste's kids instead. They thought they could make it look like an accident, like she wandered off, got lost, couldn't handle the heat. They underestimated her. They always have. And me, they forgot who raised her. I didn't scream. I didn't even call them. But I did open a folder on my phone. One I'd named just in case, and because I'd been collecting receipts for longer than they realized. There's something sickening about watching your child sleep in a hospital bed. Even when she's stable, even when the nurse says she's going to be okay. Because all I could think, standing there with a cup of vending machine coffee and desert sand still clinging to my boots, was how close they got. How agonizingly close I came to losing her. And how perfectly calm they sounded on the phone when I'd asked where she was. The doctor said it was heat exhaustion and moderate dehydration. Not enough to be fatal, not this time, but enough that another couple of hours could have tipped the scale. Enough that her kidneys were complaining, and her heart was riding the edge of a rhythm line they didn't like. Marcus sat with me in the hallway while they ran fluids through Lily's IV. He didn't say much, just handed me a bottle of water and raised an eyebrow. A silent question. "They left her," I said, my voice flat. "I figured," he replied. Taking a sip of his coffee, I stared at the sterile hospital wall. "They took her bag?" He nodded. They wanted plausible deniability. "Do you think it'll hold up?" Marcus sipped his coffee again, his gaze thoughtful. "That depends. Do you want to go quiet or loud?" I started with quiet. I made calls, meticulously gathered every photo I had, every relevant text message, every single voicemail. The camera bag Lily had managed to stash under the rock ledge still had her vlogging camera inside, because of course it did. She's 17. She documents everything. It turns out she'd been filming when Celeste told her to go check out that ridge. The clip was shaky, but undeniably clear. Celeste's voice, chirpy and seemingly innocent. "Go get some good shots, sweetie. We'll wait right here." Lily's hesitant response. "Okay, I'll be quick." Then nothing. Silence. 10 agonizing minutes later, with the camera still recording in her hand, she'd turned around, her small voice a choked whisper. "Where did they go?" I uploaded the footage, saved it to 3 different hard drives, and printed countless screenshots. Next, I pulled up the GPS log from her emergency tracker. It showed her walking, pausing, backtracking, walking again, circling, then sitting perfectly still for 2 full hours. And then, finally, my own icon appearing on the map like a digital crescendo, a sudden burst of color in the bleakness. I didn't call my family. I didn't send a single text, but I did email Alara's attorney, a man named Benson, who once mailed me a handwritten apology for spilling wine on my coat at a New Year's Eve party 5 years ago. He also handled Alara's estate, her trust, and every update to her will since the 90s. The subject line was succinct: urgent regarding the desert incident. I attached the video, the GPS log, Lily's hospital intake form, a scan of the desperate note she'd left in her sock, and a copy of Celeste's text inviting Lily to the trip. I didn't include commentary, no emotional pleas, just cold, hard facts. Benson replied within the hour. Received. Meeting with Alara tomorrow morning. The second call I made was to the local sheriff's office. Not 911, not some frantic emergency line. Just a calm, controlled call to a small-town department near Flagstaff. I asked for the detective handling missing persons and trail incidents. I explained everything in short, clipped sentences. Did they report her missing? No. Did they leave the area after she vanished? Yes. Did they ever return to look for her? No. Do you have reason to believe they knew she was left behind? I do, and I can prove it. The officer on the line, Detective Moreno, listened without interrupting, then said, "Can you come in?" "I'm out of state," I replied, my voice still steady. "But I can upload everything, and I'm happy to file a sworn affidavit." There was a long pause on the line. Then he said, "I'll send you a secure link. Don't send this over email." When I walked back into Lily's room, she was awake, barely. She looked at me with tired eyes and whispered, "Are they coming?" I sat down beside her, stroking her hair. "Not unless it's in handcuffs, honey." She gave me a small, cracked smile. The next day, Lily's voice came back fully. So did her sharp, dry sarcasm. She asked the nurse if IV fluid counted toward her daily hydration goals. When she looked better. Truly better. She said the words I hadn't let myself think, the words that had haunted my every waking moment. "I don't think they ever meant to bring me home." I didn't deny it. She told me the full story in pieces, how they'd stopped for gas, and Celeste had mistakenly taken her emergency bag out of the car, how Celeste had insisted she keep her main phone off so it could charge faster, how her cousins had been told, "Lily's meeting a friend later. We'll pick her up on the way back." They had scripted the entire thing. I asked her if she wanted to report them herself. She looked at me, her eyes clear and unblinking. "No," she said. "I want you to." "Good," I replied, because I already did. That afternoon, I got the first ping from Benson. Subject: re-desert incident. Spoke with Alara. "She's seen everything. You'll want to stay available over the next 2 weeks. This won't stay quiet for long." Then, I got the second ping from Detective Moreno. "We're preparing a formal report and request for charges reckless endangerment of a minor, child neglect, failure to report a missing person. We'll be contacting the individuals directly." Still, I didn't call my mother or my father or Celeste, not because I was scared of what they'd say. I already knew. Celeste would claim it was a misunderstanding, that Lily stormed off, that they waited for hours. Mom would say I was overreacting, always so dramatic. His dad would say nothing, then quietly send me an article about family reconciliation with no context whatsoever. I didn't want their lies. I wanted their silence. And I wanted other people to hear the truth before they had a chance to spin it into their own warped narrative. I posted nothing publicly, but I did update my emergency file, the one Alara once wryly called the family fallout binder. It now had a new tab, stark and clear, desert. Inside it, copies of everything I sent to Benson and the sheriff, a signed statement from Lily, her hospital discharge paperwork, and a single sentence written in my own handwriting. They left her on purpose because she was in the way. The next time I'd see my parents and my sister, they wouldn't be alone, and they certainly wouldn't be smiling. There's a special kind of silence in a family where everyone's waiting to see who explodes first. It's the kind of brittle, suffocating silence I walked into on a Sunday afternoon at my grandmother Alara's estate. The brunch was already in motion when Lily and I arrived. The sprawling dining table was laden with food, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. Celeste was seated at the far end, too composed, her smile a thin, painted line. My parents, the Sterlings, were pretending to butter biscuits, their movements stiff, as if they hadn't left my daughter to die in the scorching desert. And grandmother Ilara, she stood by the grand fireplace, her gnarled cane in one hand, a stack of papers held aloft in the other. You could hear the faint clinking of silverware. But no one was truly eating, truly enjoying themselves. Everyone in that room knew what this gathering was. They just didn't know how bad it was going to get. Lily and I took our seats at the far end of the table, across from Celeste. I didn't hug anyone. I didn't offer a single smile. Neither did Lily. Celeste gave us a tight-lipped grin, the kind you give to someone at a funeral you pretend you didn't plan. Then she leaned across the table, her voice a hushed, urgent whisper. "Can we talk after this, Eleanor?" My reply was curt, decisive. "Absolutely not." Grandmother Ilara cleared her throat, a small, brittle sound that commanded instant silence. This woman was in her 90s, mind you, but when she wanted a room to go silent, it simply did. She looked at each of us, her sharp eyes assessing, calculating, as if measuring our very worth. Then she spoke, her voice calm, clear, and utterly unyielding. "Thank you all for coming. I have an announcement regarding my estate." You could feel it then, the tension in the room tightening like a spring wound too tight. Celeste's entire face visibly hardened, like a rubber band pulled to its snapping point. My mother sat up straighter, her spine rigid. My father stopped chewing, his fork suspended midair. Lily, to her credit, didn't even blink. Grandmother Ilara continued, her voice gaining a steely edge. "Some of you have disappointed me profoundly. You tried to hurt what I love, to preserve what you believe you're owed. You will not succeed." Celeste opened her mouth, a sharp retort already forming, but my mother touched her wrist, a warning, an unspoken plea not to make things worse. Then Ilara lifted the papers in her hand, the thin stack rustling in the stillness. "Effective immediately. My estate will be inherited in full by one person," my father whispered, his voice incredulous. "Lily, this is insane." My mother looked like she'd swallowed a pin, her face pale. Celeste exploded. "She's manipulating you," she snapped, her voice rising in a hysterical shriek. "She's 17. She's unstable. She ran off on that trail by herself. She wanted attention. She nearly died," I said, my voice low, cutting through Celeste's hysteria. "Oh, please," Celeste hissed, turning her furious gaze on me. "You probably told her to stage it. You're always pulling this martyr act." "You left her in the middle of a desert," I countered, my voice still quiet, but laced with an undeniable, chilling authority. "But she didn't have to go. You invited her?" That stopped the room dead. Grandmother Ilara slowly turned to Celeste, her voice now like ice, each word a chilling shard. "So you admit you lied to her?" Celeste's mouth opened, then snapped shut. She tried again, but no sound came out, only a choked gasp. My mother looked away, her gaze fixed on some distant point. My father took a long, deliberate sip of water, as if he could drown himself in its coldness. Ilara stepped forward, her cane tapping softly on the hardwood floor, each tap a punctuation mark. "I have reviewed the evidence. I have consulted my lawyer, and I have pressed charges." Celeste's face dropped, her eyes wide with shock. "What?" she choked out. "The sheriff will contact you this week, possibly tomorrow." "You can't do that," my mother snapped, finally finding her voice, her face contorted in a mask of disbelief and anger. "She's your granddaughter." Ilara looked at her as if she were a persistent, irritating stain. "And Lily is my great-granddaughter. She has more of me in her than either of you ever did. I swear to you, the room could have burst into flames right then, and no one would have moved." Then Celeste stood, predictably, making everything worse. "You always hated me," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You always wanted Eleanor to win." Ilara raised a single, perfectly sculpted eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "You think this is about Eleanor?" Celeste spun on me, her eyes blazing with fury. "You put her up to this." I smiled then, For the first time all day, a slow, cold smile that didn't reach my eyes. "No," I said, my voice quiet, almost a whisper, but it cut through the lingering tension like a blade. "You did. I just made sure people saw it." The following week, formal charges were filed: reckless endangerment of a minor, neglect, failure to report a missing person, attempted fraud, inheritance interference. My parents quickly hired a lawyer, Celeste, ever the one for appearances, hired a publicist. The family group chat, once so irritatingly active, went dead. The Christmas invite, usually a contentious battleground of passive aggression, was quietly canceled. Lily received a handwritten letter from Celeste that opened with, "I didn't mean for it to go that far." It ended with, "Please don't ruin the whole family over this." Lily didn't reply. She simply folded it in half, then dropped it into the shredder, the paper tearing into silent, meaningless strips. People love to say family is everything, but here's the truth they often conveniently leave out. Not all family is good. Some people just happen to share your blood. And sometimes, what they truly deserve is distance, a quiet, permanent separation. The last time I saw my mother, she tried to corner me in the parking lot of a grocery store, her face a mixture of desperation and self-pity. She asked, her voice hushed, "Do you really want to destroy everything over a misunderstanding?" "Eleanor," my gaze was steady, unwavering. "You left my daughter in the desert," I stated, the words simple, unarguable. She blinked, her facade crumbling for a split second, then quickly rebuilt itself. "Well," she said, her voice regaining its artificial lightness, "she's fine now, isn't she?" I didn't reply. I just turned and walked away, the fluorescent lights of the parking lot reflecting dully in her eyes. A few months later, Lily started therapy, not because I made her, but because she wanted to. She said, "I need to talk about it somewhere where I don't have to protect you." "Mom." "Fair," I replied, understanding implicitly. She's still quiet, still sharp, still prone to a sarcastic comment. But sometimes I catch her laughing at videos again. A genuine, unburdened laugh. She sleeps with her bedroom door open now, a tiny, subconscious act of trust. She even leaves cups on the counter, knowing, deep down, that she's safe here, that she's truly home. As for us, Lily and me, we don't go to family holidays anymore. We go hiking instead, together. We carry too much water, too many backup chargers, and a bright red whistle that Lily likes to blow for no reason at all, just to annoy me. And I let her, because every time she does it, a wave of profound relief washes over me. And I know she's still here. They wanted her gone. Now, they're the ones who have disappeared. 9 months later, we were back in Arizona, not for a hike this time, but for the trial. My parents and Celeste were charged with reckless endangerment of a minor, neglect, failure to report a missing person, conspiracy to interfere with a legal trust, and yes, attempted manslaughter, because once the full story came out, the missing bag, the drained tracker, the skyrocketing temperature, Lily's own testimony. There was no more misunderstanding for them to hide behind, Lily testified. She stood there, calm and composed, her pale eyes like flint, and said, "I don't think they cared if I made it out. I think they were hoping I wouldn't." I gave my statement. 2. Brief, controlled, just the facts. And then the sentencing came. Celeste, 9 years, no parole for the first 5. My parents, 6 years each. The judge's voice resonated through the quiet courtroom, clear and unsparing. He stated that this wasn't mere neglect. This was a coordinated act of abandonment with clear financial motive. And that, if not for the victim's extraordinary resilience and her mother's swift, determined action, this would undoubtedly have been a homicide case. We walked out of that courtroom into the bright, unfiltered daylight of the Arizona sun. Lily took a deep, shuddering breath, but said nothing. She didn't have to. Some victories are loud, filled with cheers and applause. Some are quiet, profound, almost silent. This one, for us, it was permanent.